All right, so I already did a walk around here, but I thought I'd film this too if I have the time. This is my 2015 Subaru Forester. Had it for just about 7 years, and I think today might be my last day with it. It's kind of sad, but looking forward to. So it's been a decent car with a few major exceptions, which I'll get into when I talk about reliability. And I like it. I think even today, I mean, it doesn't look that outdated. I think the Forester style, I mean, it hasn't changed a lot, which lends itself to looking newer than it is. It's got a few design flaws, I think, but those are, for the most part, made up for by the fact that it's generally a pretty nice design. Front seat, I think. Oh, well, I better unlock it. Front seat has been nothing but good to us. It's fairly spacious. The air conditioning works fine. You only get front vents in the premium model, which is what this is, 2.5i premium. Not the XT. I don't even know if they offered the XT this year. The cup holders are fine. Came with heated seats, which work well enough. Steering feel is fine. No complaints. The back seat, got it folded down right now, is perfectly adequate for me. I'm 5'9", and as you can see, I have about 6 inches of room. I'm not particularly tall though. Look at there. I just tracked a bunch of dirt. I can't necessarily recline in the thing, but it's good. Even has rear cup holders, and you can lower your own window, which is the bare minimum I'd expect. Folded down, got a ton of cargo space, and a ton of height for that cargo to be in. So you can fit some pretty tall stuff, and you can stack stuff pretty easily in this car, which is nice. I've moved a bunch of times, and other than my move where I had to take everything at once because I was moving states, I did not need more than Subaru Forester. Here is cargo area. I mean, it's voluminous. It's great. I think it's the biggest in the class, or at least it was for 2015. And it has this nice little thing to grab when you want to shut your trunk, so you don't get your hand dirty. Bought it back in Tennessee, Darrell Waltrip, kind of in Franklin, Tennessee. And it's a partial zero emissions vehicle, which really only matters in California. In terms of the wheels, I think they're fine. They've been holding up fine. I took a pressure washer to them, and it turns out I guess this is painted because the center caps, a couple of them lost their paint. I've learned from that. I will no longer do that. It's probably a thing on every car. The tires, presently I'm running Michelin fenders. Before this I was running Michelin somethings. They're fine. In terms of miles I've gotten this thing, I have 112,000, you can see it now, 112,486. When I trade it in, if I trade it in, it will probably be around 112,500 miles. Has warranty into 120,000 miles, and yeah, it's been pretty okay, other than a couple major exceptions, which I'll get into when I'm driving. In terms of the head unit, well, I can't tell you about the stock head unit on the Forester, at least the radio, because mine came with an aftermarket one, which promptly broke, and then I replaced it with this aftermarket one. My experience with Kenwood radios is that they suck, and yeah, they're not very intuitive. They disconnect from Bluetooth here and there pretty frequently. Yeah, generally not a fan, but it doesn't really matter. And yeah, I connect to my phone on this. I've got a little magnet here. There you go. And that's my Apple CarPlay. But anyways, enough about this. Let's get into the drive. All right. So at 112,486 miles, still starts okay. Backup camera, as you can see, or maybe not, I hope you can see, it's pretty tiny, but it works. It's high quality. On the car I'm looking at, which I'll get into later, the backup camera is larger, but I don't think the resolution of the camera, or at least the resolution of the image, has changed. So that means that the image itself is worse and larger, and I think I just prefer the better engine and smaller, or better image and smaller. It's really personal preference. So I guess we can start with the question of how does it drive? So I came to this from a Ford Mustang, so a 2016 one. So that car, I mean, I know Mustangs are more muscle cars than proper sports cars, but it certainly, you know, handles better than the average car, and it's faster than the average car. Despite that, I have felt that the Subaru Forester, the 2015 Forester, is perfectly adequate for what it is. I don't need or expect this car to be fast. I'm going to turn around here and go on a dirt road. Looks like there's some kids having fun down there. It's perfectly adequate for what it is on the road. It accelerates fine. It's not fast. It's not even okay speed-wise, but it's fine, especially at low speeds. It's fine around the city for sure. It feels lightweight. It feels kind of peppy. I think the 0 to 60 is in the 8-second range, probably on the high end of that. And in terms of handling, it doesn't have as much body roll as I've felt in other SUVs. It handles turns totally fine. It doesn't feel like a slouch if your goal is to go fast, that is. On back roads, it's fine. It's composed, is what I'd say. There's no situations where you feel like you have to go slower than the speed limit because turning feels dangerous, if that makes sense. But that's about the extent to which I'd say this thing handles well. It's not a car that's meant to be blasting through turns. Now, what I will say is that the suspension is very supple and it soaks up bumps fairly well, while still being sort of rigid. And I think that helps with the handling and that you never feel like you have to go slow. I'm on a dirt road now. This is not off-roading, but this is a dirt road. And I would say this is where the Subaru Forester is probably at its best. Compared to other crossover SUVs I've been in, I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, same as the Topher. This is nowhere near as good as the Topher, review-wise. But compared to other SUVs that I ride in on these dirt roads around Ann Arbor, the Forester feels a lot more comfortable and composed. That could be in part, and probably is in part, due to the fact that my Michelin Defender tires are pretty darn decent tires, but it's probably equal in part due to the suspension setup on the Forester being somewhat favorable for light off-road or soft road use. And on that topic, I take this thing out to mountain bike and hike, and sometimes I don't want to park it a mile from the trailhead, and so I will typically drive down dirt roads that are actual, probably soft roading roads. And the Forester is absolutely fine. I hike year-round. I drive to trailheads on fire road type roads, but also sometimes semi-proper off-roading, soft roading, as I said, type roads, and I drive in them in the wet. I drive in them in the dry. I drive in them in snow, and obviously a little bit in ice, but ice always comes with snow, and in ice, you know, nothing's really gonna help you. But I digress. I've never had a single issue in those sorts of circumstances with the Forester. The Forester, when it comes to off-roading, is totally fine, and if there's ice, nothing's gonna help you. And worst case scenario, if the Forester isn't good enough, upgrade your tires and it will probably be good enough for 99.9% of use cases. So generally speaking, driving-wise, whether you're on or off-road, the Forester delivers. It is generally comfortable. It feels safe to drive at any rate of speed. You never feel like you have to not go the speed limit. The only time driving where I don't like it is, you know, not necessarily this, I'm not a big fan of the Forester on the interstate. At high speeds, will it go 80? Will it pass it 80? Yes, you can get this thing into the hundreds, well into the hundreds, low hundreds, and it's gonna be fine. And it's totally fine at highway speeds. It's not a problem. It'll cruise all day at 70, and the dynamic cruise control on here works reasonably well for an early version of it. It's very conservative, and sometimes it brakes a little hard, but whatever. It's fine on the highway, but on the highway, you do start to notice, hey, this is a little 4-cylinder, this is a relatively large car that this little 4-cylinder is hauling around, and it makes you wish for a little bit more. But a little bit more power means a little bit worse gas mileage, and I would prefer the gas mileage because I'm a cheapo. And if you can see on the dash here, which you might not be able to, I'm not sure, right now I'm getting it indicated about 29 miles a gallon, and frankly, that's not far off of what I usually get. If you look at my indicated average for the past 12,000 or 9,500 miles, I've gotten about 28.8 mpg, and that's pretty accurate. On the highway, I drive about 70 miles an hour, probably average a little lower than that. I'm not a fast driver, and I get probably 32 to 35 on highway trips. I get pretty good MPG, and again, I don't go very fast. Around town, it's a little worse. Back when I lived in Boston, I was getting probably 23 to 27 in the city. And when I say city, I mean suburbs. So stop and go traffic, you're getting 20 to 22 in this thing, and that's on a good day. So if you're in stop and go traffic, I don't know why you're even looking at a Forester. Get something with auto stop start, or get something with, I don't know, get a hybrid or something. This isn't a great car for middle of the city. Other than the fact that this thing is fairly short, if that makes sense. It is not long like its Outback sibling, and so parallel parking this thing is a breeze. I've parallel parked this thing all over Boston the past few years and never had a single qualm with it. I'm accelerating a bit fast here for you to hear the engine. So this is what it's like going about 55, 60. I'm not going to go any faster than that on this road because I respect my neighbors. But as you can see, it's quiet, it's fine, it's composed, and yeah, the MPG's pretty darn decent. And I think that covers driving. So let's move on to what the ownership experience has been like that. Oh yeah, this has lane departure warnings too. Sometimes it gets it wrong. That time it got it right. But the general owner experience for my 2015 Subaru Forester, overall, it's been good. It has been reliable. It's never broken down on me, not once. I've never really had any issues from a safety perspective. It's never done anything unexpected, if that makes sense. But there has been one glaring reliability issue that I will start with, and that has been that the CVT in this thing is hot garbage, and I'm not alone in that. If you type Forester CVT failure, you're gonna have a list of about 200 Reddit posts probably to go through. I'm driving through a cemetery right now to turn around. These things, especially in the early models, the 2015s especially, which was the first generation of Forester that I think had the CVT, maybe the 2014 too. But regardless, these CVTs on these things, they're made of glass. They fail with extreme frequency. My first one went out. I started hearing a clicking noise at about, I don't know, probably low speeds. Basically whenever I was coasting, I heard a clicking, clacking noise. And it turned out that was I think it was the solenoid valve was going. I think that's the name for it. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So, excuse the cut there. I started rambling and I don't think that's necessary. Essentially, the solenoid valve in my transmission was going out, and if you live stateside and own a Subaru Forester, they do not just repair your transmission when you're having a transmission issue. They replace the transmission and they ship it back to Japan to repair it, is at least what I've read on Reddit. That may not be the case. But regardless, if you need a new transmission on one of these things, back when I had the transmission issue at 47,000 miles, that was the first time I had that issue, it was going to cost you about $8,000, which is a substantial sum of money for any car issue, probably more than an engine. And nowadays, I've seen on Reddit that could be $10,000 plus. This is again for a 2015 Forester. I don't know what this is going to cost for a newer Forester, but I can only presume that, you know, a 2021, 2022 Forester, if you have an issue in those with the CVTs, it's going to cost just as much. But I also hear that they've sort of sorted out the glass CVT issue and that they're a little bit more reliable now, or a lot more reliable now. You never really know what's propaganda on those Reddit forums anyways. But yeah, CVT's gone out once at 47,000 miles, and again at, I think it was 80-ish thousand miles. So those were two very bad glaring reliability issues that put my car in the shop for a week each time. The first time they gave me a loaner because I was under 60,000 miles. The second time they did not give me a loaner. Luckily I bought this car certified, so it was no big deal because I didn't have to pay for it. But that would have been a huge unexpected bill that as a graduate student I would not have been happy to pay for at the second time that happened. So if you're buying one of these used, I would hesitate. That being said, after the second CVT, I've had this one for, I guess it's only been 30,000 miles. It works perfectly fine. It's a solid transmission. I have nothing but confidence that the present transmission is solid currently. But I also do all of the recommended maintenance, and always did do the recommended maintenance. And I just wonder if, at least regarding the first transmission going out, the original owner maybe was skimping on their CVT maintenance. Now, in terms of other reliability issues, I really haven't had many. I've had 2 wheel bearings go out. Those, I mean, that's any car. The first one happened at, I think, 95,000 miles. The second one happened at 103,000 miles. That's fine. I mean, I've heard, you know, I've never, the Toyotas I've owned, I've never had wheel bearings go out. On the Fords I've owned, I've never had wheel bearings go out. But it is what it is. Apparently Subarus are kind of prone to those. It's like a $600 fix, I'm pretty sure, from the dealer. You can probably get it done for $300 from a private mechanic, I would guess. It's you know, it's not the end of the world. It's expensive, but it's not a problem you sell a car over, if that makes sense. Trying to think if I've had any other reliability issues. So that's the thing it does. If it thinks you're going to hit something, it will start to stop the car and certainly alarm you. But yeah, other than that, I've really had no reliability issues. If you do this, you see that the left squirted more than the right. Here, let me do it again. I don't know if it like dry rotted the tube that sends washer fluid to the right side of the windshield, or if like a squirrel got in there and chewed it, but for whatever reason I've got some leaking fluid coming out of the right nozzle. I don't blame the Subaru Forester for that. That's, I think, a problem that could have happened on any car. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of things not working. When I got the car, it had this radio in it, or it had another Kenwood radio in it. So I replaced it with this Kenwood radio when the first Kenwood radio broke. And yeah, fool me once, shame on you, but I'm not going to be buying a Kenwood radio ever again because this thing's a piece of hot garbage. I mean, look, it can't even hold on to the whatever buttons. I can pop these things off and like, oh well, they're staying on for now. But basically, this button pops off, this thing disconnects from Bluetooth all the time, whatever. It's not standard equipment on a Subaru, and you can be thankful for that. So so this all kind of leads us to the question of, what am I getting next? I told you I'm probably trading this car in tomorrow, and this car, yeah, is going to be leaving my stable. How do I feel about that? Well, weirdly, even though I sort of swore it off and almost sold it immediately after the second transmission went out, I'm gonna miss it. It's a solid, capable vehicle that's reasonably fine for road trips. It's pretty comfortable. It gets pretty decent gas mileage, at least passable gas mileage, especially when I'm driving it, because I drive like a nanny. And frankly, I just went through a lot of life in this car, so I'm gonna miss it. But I did swear it off again, after, as I said, after I swore off Subaru in general after the CVT problem. But lo and behold, here I am at 112,000 miles, and I'm looking at Subarus again, and tomorrow I'm going to put in an offer on a 2021 Subaru Outback. It has 30,000 miles on it. Again, that thing has the CVT, but again, it is certified pre-owned, and this one comes with a lifetime powertrain warranty. So, assuming the lifetime powertrain warranty is not just, you know, hoodoo voodoo, and they actually honor it, which I've heard that this dealer actually does, according to accounts from my friends who have bought there. I should be fairly well covered in the event that the transmission goes out again, so I would actually be able to keep that car for a long time, because frankly, I think selling a car at 112,000 miles is pretty premature. That being said, I don't want to own this car after the warranty is expired and get hit with a $10,000+ repair bill on a car that is probably worth $11,000 peak in a private party sale. So yeah, I'm gonna miss the Forester despite the problems I've had with it. If you want a car that gets decent gas mileage, can hold a bunch of stuff, personally I think looks good, can soft road, and if you're willing to go slow or upgrade your tires kind of off-road, and is pretty safe, maybe worth checking out. If you want that car to, you know, not ever have a transmission go out or not ever have an engine go out, well, I would say that due to the planned obsolescence of modern cars, you are maybe out of options to some degree, unless you get a 4Runner or something, you know, similarly dinosaur-esque. But I would say this is not the car for sure. Personally, I've heard that Toyota's CVTs, despite them still having CVT problems, are a lot more reliable, and you know, they're throwing 8-speed automatics and 4Runners. But right now, Subaru Foresters and Subaru Outbacks are approximately, you know, thousands less than Toyota RAV4s. They've kind of come back to borderline sane prices compared to pre-pandemic, and Toyotas are still riding that Toyota tax. I looked at some RAV4s at my local dealer. There's still multi-$1,000 dealer markups. There are still used, you know, RAV4 hybrids with 100,000 miles going for just a couple thousand less than MSRP. It's a wild world out there, and I'm not willing to be a part of it. The Subaru Outback has all the features this car does and then some. It's very comfortable, probably gets a little worse gas mileage, but it's very safe. And frankly, I think that it is more than adequate for my needs. So I'm staying in the Subaru family. And funny enough, the car that I think I'm gonna buy tomorrow, it was serviced at the same dealer that I serviced this car at when I lived in Massachusetts. So I'm taking that as a sign from God that that's the right car. Anyways, I don't really know what else to say. I guess I should talk to the car. Subaru Forester, I'm gonna miss ya. Thanks for getting me through my PhD. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. If you're looking for a 2015 Forester, get one with a warranty or run far away. And otherwise, assuming that CVT issues are worked out in later model years, I think they're solid cars. And I think that's a video. Later, y'all.